When you see the whole world shaking and you feel your heart is breaking, take my hand, no hesitating. Oh, when you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Fearless, we'll take in the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Can you see the sun is shining like a new hope? Feel it rising, coming over the horizon. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Fearless, we'll take in the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping.
Good evening. It's Saturday, October 16th. It was a beautiful day. It started off nice. A cold front came in, and now it's raining and it's chilly. And tomorrow it's supposed to be more like fall-like weather. So I'm good with that. I'm good. Uh, it's time for fall, right? Sweaters and pumpkin spice lattes. And I don't drink pumpkin spice lattes, by the way. Okay, that's not for me. But but having it right after Labor Day when it's still like in the 90s now, with tomorrow being the 60s, then that's perfect weather for pumpkin spice lattes. Okay. Had a busy week. Have a closing Monday. Have a new listing coming up. Actually, on Monday too. Been working on it, and if everything goes well, I'll have another closing by the end of the month. So things are going well. I have a lot of people looking. I think uh, the market is changing more so for the buyers. It's still a seller's market, but more listings are going on the market. So it's going to cut back on that competition where maybe about 6-7 months ago, you had about 12 people competing for one house. Now it's down maybe to 4 or 5, and maybe just 2. So that's a good sign for my buyers. Prices are still going to remain high and still might go up in 2022 another 5%, but it won't be that crazy 18-19% we went through in this year of 2021. Okay. So, but today we're going to talk about something different and about whether I should renovate my house, because a lot of things have changed within the last year. Okay, our lifestyles have changed. And more of us are working at home. More of us are taking a room and making it into a studio like Mr. G, and their office, their studio, whatever, and uh, they are no longer living in the larger cosmopolitan cities, but moving out to the suburbs where prices are better and you can find a parking space. All right. And so things have changed. Um, I would imagine not that many people are homeschooling now because a lot of kids are going back, but probably in the last year or two, more people have decided to do homeschooling um, instead of bringing their children to school. I mean, years before that, it was completely for a different reason, but now because of the pandemic, people probably deciding to, if they can, if they have the time, if one or both parents are available to do it, they'll start homeschooling, and then they set up another room as a classroom. So we've gone through a lot of changes. People set up a workout room, okay, because they're working a lot at home. They want to take a break and go on a treadmill or on the bike, and a lot of things are happening. So let's do our little introduction to that, and then we will start our topic. Okay, that's putting in a nutshell what we're going to talk about today. Now, before I go, I already gave you a little introduction about people's, well, changes in people's lifestyle and making the decision that they don't need to live within a large cosmopolitan city. I'm coming from New York and Brooklyn. Um, if you don't own a house in either Manhattan or the five boroughs, you might have a condo. And these are apartments, and there's, of course, they're going to be smaller than a house. Some of them big, okay? But and you might say, um, I want a little bit more space, and since I'm working at home now, I want an extra room for an office, for a studio. I want an extra room for a place to work out. I want an extra room to have a class for my children. So a lot of these changes have come about within the last year with the pandemic, and people are moving out from the larger cities to the suburbs where they get more bang for their buck, bigger homes for less money, and they have a little bit more space um, uh, between homes. Okay, they might have a bigger backyard in this situation, but nonetheless, they've moved out and they've realized that with today's technology, um, I could do everything I have to do at home and not be in an office 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 5 days a week. I could do this at home. Now, I might still go into the office twice a week, but that's a lot easier on your nerves than going in 5 times. Now, um, I lived in Brooklyn before I went into real estate, and before I even went into teaching, I worked in a company called Merrill Lynch, okay, a Wall Street firm. the first branch I worked at was in Midtown Manhattan, and it would take me about a 40-minute subway car ride to get there. Now, at that time, they were, and not at old times, people always also who lived in Manhattan, they might have lived in Connecticut, they might have lived in Long Island. Okay, what was getting big in our area? I mean, basically, you have like the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, but people began buying homes or having homes built in Pennsylvania, right across the New Jersey border, which my parents did. They didn't commute every day once their house was built, but it was a vacation home, a second home, and that was the first place they retired. But there were people who, on a daily basis, would take a MOTS bus to Manhattan, okay, which that in itself is about an hour and a half bus ride. And unless your job is right in Midtown by where the bus terminal is, you would have to take a subway to either go downtown or further uptown. So now we're talking about 2 hours a day in travel, and that's one way. So when you're doing two ways, to go back home, that's 4 hours of traveling a day. All right. And if you're getting out at 5, let's say you're getting out at 5, 2 hours traveling, assuming there's no big traffic jams. You're getting home at 7:30. The kids already had dinner. They did their homework. They're getting ready for bed. If they're really young, all right, and it's not a good lifestyle. So this changes, which is actually pretty good for a lot of people, especially people who now live further out from the city because of today's technology. They really don't have to go in. If I have to do a 4-hour round trip, journey to get to my work, I'd rather do that once or twice a week than 5 times a week. All right. So many people, because of the pandemic, have made this choice to do that. Now, the question comes now is, and let's say I haven't made the move yet. And I said, gee, I would really like to, maybe I can convert the garage into an office. Maybe I could open up a room, expand a room. So many things. Build something, maybe a room over a garage. All right, making some sort of renovations, or just like, since you're spending more time at home, you're upgrading your kitchen, you're upgrading your bathrooms. Okay, you want new hardwood floors or the premium vinyl floors, and so you have these renovations. So you say, okay, well, I'm either going to renovate my existing home, or I'm going to move and find that home that's upgraded, that has the extra space. So that's what today's discussion is about. Should I renovate, or should I come, or should I go? Should I renovate, or should I move? Now, the crux to this question deals with equity. How much equity do I have in my home? And I began talking about that last week. And the times I've talked about equity, not just last week. Well, let me bring my mic closer. I hope you've been hearing me well. Okay. This whole term of equity, I decided that I should put it like in a chart, so you completely understand what this equity is about and how it increases. Now, basically, your equity is your mortgage minus your unpaid balance. All right. And what's left over is equity. It's what your true ownership, what you own in a house. So I'm going to be giving examples of $100,000. So that's easy to work with. So if I buy a house and it's worth, and the purchase price is $100,000, and it's worth $100,000, and I put down 20%, which is $20,000, my unpaid balance is $80,000, but what I paid in cash at this point is $20,000, and I have then $20,000 worth of equity in my house. Okay, so let me put that up there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give the example one. Purchase price and the appraisal are equal. All right, before I go into explaining the appraisal price, let's just look at this again. So we have 100,000. We put down the down payment of 20,000. The unpaid balance of the house is 80,000. So my equity, what I actually own in the house, is $20,000. And guess what? I could borrow against that. And in the case of renovations, it would be called a home equity loan. Now, most banks are not going to lend you the full amount of your equity. It will be a percentage, maybe 80% of your equity. They just want a little safety valve there, or a little, how can I put it, a buffer there between your true equity and what they're going to lend you. Now let's look at the second example. And before I even go to, we're talking about, okay, let's move this down a little bit here. Okay, in this example, your appraisal is higher than the purchase price. So now, by the way, the appraisal is done afterwards, not right at the beginning. I have it on top here just to, I worked this different ways, this chart different ways. I wanted to make it seem as easy as possible. Okay, so you have an appraisal price of 120,000. The purchase price, the price that the house went on the market was 100,000. Okay, so the mortgage you're taking out on this, let's say it's just a conventional loan, you're going to put down 20% or 20,000. Your unpaid balance is 80,000. But now the appraiser goes there, and he or she appraises the house. And what is this appraiser? Well, this appraiser represents or works. When I say works for, they're not an employee of the bank. They're independent. Well, they'll work. I guess I could use the word as an agent for the bank, and they'll go out and they'll find out what the true value of the house is. And what they'll do, they'll go out there, they'll do measurements of the house, make sure the measurements are correct, the way it is on the tax records, the way it is on the listing. They'll look at the condition of the house. They'll look to see if there's any upgrades to the house. And there's a lot more to this. I'm just touching the surface of it. There's so much more involved with doing appraisals. In fact, that's probably what, when you take the real estate exam, to understand how appraisals work and what other different factors involved are the most difficult things to learn and memorize for the real estate exam. So they'll look at houses in usually a 1 mile radius around the house that's being purchased, and they'll look at comps. Now, comps are houses that are very similar to the house that's being sold. So if the house is a 3-bedroom with 2.5 baths and about 1,800 square feet, the appraiser will look at houses with those same dimensions within a 1 mile radius and see what has sold, what is pending, and what is listed. All right. And it's going to be weighed more with the homes that have sold, because that's the ones that they have closed, and they have definitely been appraised at a certain price. So they go strongly more with the ones that are closed. Okay. So in this example, the appraisal price was $100,000, which is $20,000 above the purchase price. So the appraiser has deemed that this house is actually worth $120,000. Well, for the buyer, that's great because there is built-in equity in the house. The house is coming in with equity as well. All right. So which is at 20,000. You're putting down 20,000. Okay. And the unpaid balance is still at 80,000, but the 40,000 you have 40,000 equity because there's 20,000 down payment plus the built-in equity. And again, these are examples, these first two examples are right when the house is being purchased. Okay. So here we have already equity built in the house at $40,000 because they're appraised higher. Now, if you've been watching on my podcast, and it's been a repeated theme that within the last year, home prices have increased about 18, 19% across the country. So the value of people's homes have gone up quite significantly. So a lot of people had this extra equity in their homes that now they could do a lot of things with it. They could renovate the house, again, taking a home equity loan against the equity here. And again, like I said, it's not going to be the full 40,000, be percentage of that, but you have more equity now to, to take out a loan and do that renovation of the kitchen or the bathroom or putting down new floors or whatever. Okay, you have that power now. Okay, now to make this even more confusing, and let me move down a little bit here. Let's get this even more confusing. So now we're out at 10 years later. And again, I'm estimating, I'm not even estimating payments. I'm just rounding them out to make the example a lot easier. Okay. Now, keep in mind when I say monthly payments, that's not the full amount of payment. Your monthly mortgage payment is mortgage and interest. Okay. And there's also your insurance that's divided by 12, and your taxes, whatever your yearly taxes is, divided by 12. So that whole payment that you make, and let's say your monthly payment is $1,000, you're not paying down your monthly your balance by $1,000. You're basically paying it down, and that at the earliest part of a mortgage, when you first start paying your mortgage at the very first year, the majority of that payment is going to actually go to interest because you still have the larger unpaid balance on it. Okay. So out of that $1,000, after you paid your interest, after you paid your insurance, after you paid your taxes, you might have just lowered your mortgage, your balance or your unpaid balance by maybe $30-$40. Okay. Takes a while before you really make a big dent in your mortgage, more so like after the 15th year if you're taking a 30-year mortgage. But to make this example, let's say you paid down your balance by $10,000. So now you have an unpaid balance of $70,000. And with this example, there's no increase in market value. Okay, just to make this a comparison here. Most likely there will be a increase in market value. Okay, but in this example, just to explain, your equity is $30,000. Now, let's move this down. I think let me get rid of my caption right now so I could see some more of my work here. Okay, so let's move this down. So now we have the example 10 years later of a mortgage payments, but there's a 25,000 K increase in market value. So the current market value is 125,000. The purchase price of your home and the original cost of your mortgage was 100,000. You have your down payment of 20,000 that you made at the very beginning. Your monthly payments brought it down another 10,000. You have unpaid balance of 70,000, but because of that increased home value of 25,000, we add another 25,000 to that, okay? And you have a home equity of, did I do this correct? Let's see something here. The other one was 30. This is 20. So it's your market value minus your unpaid balance. No, I made a boo boo. It should be okay. It should be okay. It should be 55,000. Okay, hold on here. Let's take out my calculator. I want to make sure I did this right. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, so we take 125,000 minus 70,000. Okay. Oh wait, I did times 125 minus 70,000 equals 55,000. Okay, and yeah, that should be 55,000. I apologize. Okay, it's actually it's actually 55,000. Okay, I wanted to do that to see who is really paying attention. So the unpaid, the equity in the house is actually 55,000. So you see how, as the value of the house increases and you pay down your balance, your equity, which you actually own in the house, is going to get larger and larger. All right. So, and that's what happened again within the last year. So let's go down here. And the big question then, should you renovate or move? All right. So over here, let me highlight this area here. The last 18 months changed what many buyers are looking in a home. Recently, the American Institute of Architects released their AA Home Design Trend Survey results for the third quarter of 2021. The survey reveals the following. So I'm not going to read all the percentages. Some want more of an outdoor living space. They want a home office. That's pretty big. They want a multi-function room, flexible space. Could be a workout room. All right. Could be a classroom. 42 want a pair in-law suite. They might want to bring in an aging parent. Someone an exercise room or yoga space. All right. So you have two options. You could renovate your current home or buy a home that has these spaces that you want. Okay. Your decision you make could be determined by factors like your possible desire to relocate, the difference in cost of renovation versus purchase, finding an existing home or designing a new home that has exactly what you want versus trying to restructure the layout of your home. So anyway, we go back down to here where home equity is skyrocketing, what we just talked about. The record settings increase in home prices over the last 2 years dramatically improved homeowners' equity. And here they're going to show you in that last year, it went up. And here they're using dollars. Here going from, this is about the maybe the second or third quarter of 2020, and it's gone up from 10,000 to $35,000, so about $25,000. Okay, so you could either take this money, again, as I stated earlier, you could take that money to either renovate your home and take out that home equity loan with that increased equity in your house, or you could sell your house. And now, because now what happens with that equity, it's not something you're borrowing against, it's something that now you're going to have in cash. So now you might have 55,000 cash in your hand. Now, I'm keeping it simple because if you're going to list your house, there's commission fees and there's taxes. Okay, I'm just keeping the numbers very simple right now. Okay, so you might have 55,000, which when you buy your next home, you could use that 55,000 as a down payment to lower your monthly mortgage payment. All right, so that helps you in that way. So that home equity helps you in two ways. Either you borrow against it, this increased home equity, or you sell your house and you have more cash now to put down for your next home. Now, what they're saying, and which is so true, that the sooner you wait to do this, it's going to get more expensive. Now, even before you do this, it says here, determine the amount of equity in your home. The current, find out what your current mortgage balance on your home is, and you'll see that on your monthly bank statement from the mortgage company, and the current value of your home. And how do you find that current value of your home? Well, you could go to your trusted professional like Chris Gargiulo, and I will do a CMA or a comparative market analysis on your home. Okay, let me get this back over here. Or if you want, now keep in mind, when I do a CMA on your home, and I'll do the best that I can on it.
Control a video device with your voice. You need to connect it
That's
first.
my
In the Alexa app.
okay,
go to
Alexa.
Settings.
I don't know what I don't think I said Alexa, but I had to unplug Alexa. I'm sorry. All right. Now I could do it to give you a ballpark number. Now an appraisal can go out, and by the way, appraising is very subjective. You could send two appraisers to the same house, and they may not come out with the same value for the house. Okay, it's very subjective. One might not like that there's believe it or not, that there's a 7-Eleven right by the house, which is a problem I have with one appraisal. And some other appraisals said, well, that's great to have a place where you could get food 24 hours. It's very subjective. And it's also dealing with when they compare homes, and if they feel that one house is in the surrounding neighborhood has better homes, even though the home that you're trying to sell is gorgeous, they might give it a little bit of a lower market value. Okay, it's very subjective. The only way you're going to really find out is when you actually apply for the home equity loan and their appraiser goes out. Okay, but I could tell you if it's worth doing it. I mean, I might be off by $5,000, maybe even less. Okay, and if there's any agents out there that say I could pinpoint it, no agent could pinpoint it exactly. If you do, you're good. I mean, it's very possible that you will, but there's no guarantee that you will. All right, because it's very subjective. I don't care how long you've been in the business, but I could tell you, the low end what it might be, and the high end what it would be, and if that's enough for you to, let's say, renovate your house to get that home equity loan, then you go for it. Okay. So I can help you with that. And you could actually go to this is my website, not my blog, but my website where you could search for homes, and you could also get your home value. Okay. And there's the right down here, we have the uh, website, and it's when you go to it in the top menu bar, you'll see sell. You're selling, you click on that, and then it'll say, what's your home value? And then you put in your address, and it calculates it. But I would still, I mean, I'll get that notice that you requested that, but I would still myself run it and really pinpoint it. Uh, and we could discuss it. Okay. But I wouldn't just go buy a computer generated one, because they get, they're using numbers, and they're not really, it boils down to really, let's say you have 5 comps to compare it to. Then you really have to look at the photos of the house and see if it's been upgraded, the condition of the house. And then, you could play around with it that way. What is my house above that one? It has more upgrades, or I didn't do the upgrades, so it might be below that one. So that's where it gets very, very subjective. But I have to say, with EXP, we actually received, it's called Core Present, and it's pretty accurate. And it's a great way for me to build a CMA, but I will still run my own comps as well. So we could help you with that, because I would love to get your listing. All right. So, all right, let's close this out over here and put me back on full. All right. Now I have a little uh, video that kind of summarizes. Gee, where video clips? Okay, I think this is it here. Yeah. About using the equity in your house and what you could use it for. So this is a nice way to summarize it. All right. So that basically summarized what I just said. This one thing I want to clarify: when you get more home equity in your house, and if you go below 20%, where you're beginning now to own more than 20% of your loan. In the past, all private mortgage insurance was canceled out at that point. But it's changed. You're actually going to have to refinance. And I'm just giving you that heads up. It depends on what type of mortgage you have. Like I said, in the past, it has um, uh, automatically cut off. But then they made changes, especially when we had the real estate crash in 2007. and they left it going on. Now, you can get rid of the private mortgage insurance, but you may have to refinance and a new type of loan and get that off. But again, talk to your trusted mortgage professional on that. Okay, I don't want you to think that it'll automatically disappears. Okay, you might have to do some extra steps. All right, so I hope that was very helpful. This was a different approach. We usually talk about buying or selling. Now we talked about taking your home equity. I mean, it also involves selling because you could sell your house because you have more equity in your current one, and maybe do a much larger down payment on your next one, which would be very helpful, right? Everybody wants to have a low mortgage payment. So I think that'd be a good thing. Okay. All right. I'm hearing from my producer. We may have a famous celebrity in the audience. Is somebody you said I might have worked with before?
Yes, great news. You have a famous celebrity in the audience which you have worked with in the past. In her TV series, she was a smart and fearless collie, performing a series of heroic tasks for her human owners and friends. For the first several years of the series, she lived on family farms before moving on to work with forest rangers in the wilderness and ultimately settling in at Holden Ranch, a ranch for troubled children. Ladies and gentlemen, Lassie.
Wait a minute. Lassie brought her own credits. I mean, I just she's a real, but I mean, it's my show. She's showing her own credits. But I was seeing Lassie. I did work with Lassie at one time in the career before I went into teaching and real estate. I was a child actor actually, and I filled in for Timmy. Timmy got into a little trouble, and they needed someone to take his place for a couple of weeks while he was working out some things. And so he's like when I was on it, his a poster that went up advertising me and Lassie. So I did work with Lassie. It was a good time, but she could be a little arrogant at times. But anyway, so thank you very much for watching. I hope it was very helpful. We'll see you next week. And we're getting closer to Halloween. We're getting closer to the holidays. And hopefully good things will be happening. All right. If you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated. And while you're not being vaccinated, wear your mask. Keep a social distance. Wash your hands. Remember, the greatest power we have is to love. And the greatest gift is each other. So I'll see you next week. And my closing thing is over here. Okay. No, that was my overlay. I'm sorry. I gotta move this down over here. Hang on there. Where's my video? There it is over here. Okay. And I'll see you next week.